Wait, shall we clap for sync? 3, 2. So it's 2 claps, right? 3, 2. This is the podcast.
Role Players Anonymous. You blew your microphone out there, Ricky, with that voice.
Welcome to the Role Players Anonymous podcast. I'm your host, Ricky Stones, aka Rob from 5M, followed by my boy Johnny.
I'm Johnny Mac, also known as Smoke on Discord. I'm going to pass you up to the bald guy.
Wow. My name's on Discord it's Fresh. Most people you'll hear in this podcast probably refer to me by Moose. Play a character called Amos. Moose kind of derived from that.
Did you say anus?
Yeah, that also was something that was definitely played out in RP. Amos the famous anus, I was once referred to as.
Say that 3 times fast.
Yeah, good luck.
No, he's asking.
No, go ahead. He's asking you.
Amos the famous anus. Amos the famous Amos. Amos the famous anus.
Yeah. Actually, Johnny, you might know the guy that called me that. Terry. You remember Terry Burgers?
Oh, yeah, Amos the famous anus.
And that's how his voice was when he said it. It was like he'd smoked a pack an hour.
Yeah. Are you telling me your name is Amos the famous anus? Hey, I'm gonna go to Yellow Jack.
Yeah, that's one thing I wish I could do was any kind of accent, period.
Yeah.
I just default to Mickey Mouse whenever I do crime.
That's not bad. It's not a bad idea.
For a long time, I always defaulted to Arnie because what that did is it pulled other people into doing it as well. And then what you ended
I
up
love doing the Arnie.
and then what you end up is you end up with 5 different people trying to do Arnie. You know, and it's just good. Anyway, Ricky, explain what the podcast is before we just start getting rambling into just our normal fucking Discord chats.
You're right. We got a little carried away there again, as we usually do. So this podcast is kind of a cluster of ideas. It's going to be focusing around RP, anything RP accentuated. We're going to be talking mostly about GTA 5 RP to start off with, because that's where we all met, so we all have a lot of our experience from the last couple of years here. We're basically giving a safe space and an introduction to RP for new people, kind of bring the community together and help people find a space where they can... I feel like I got interrupted there.
Yeah, you should turn your phone off.
Yeah, it's called a distraction.
That was going really good too.
Yeah, it sounded amazing.
Completely.
There's a silent button. You know that?
Now we just have to cut it.
The whole recording. Yeah.
Yeah, we cut it. Yep. Start again. Fuck it.
I say we start over. That was early enough.
Ruined it.
Lesson learned. We're good. Lesson learned.
It's 2023. Why isn't your phone on silent?
It's 2023. Why do people need ringers anymore?
I don't know. I bought a new phone and I just like the noises it makes. Anyways, welcome to the Role Players Anonymous podcast. I'm your host, Ricky Stones, aka.
You actually
we don't have to do the whole thing again.
We're just winding you up. I ain't said for you doing the whole thing again, and we're gonna miss out on some comedy gold like Amos the famous anus. We can't do a callback to that. You know what I mean? It needs to remain. It's canon. It's canon. Where's the canon?
We'll just cut out your phone ding. And resume.
Where's the canon?
So continue like you had just talked about.
It's canon.
That's way too loud. Continue like you had just. We're doing your introduction.
Anyways, as I was saying, we are giving a safe space to new players. Trying to unite more people through RP and give just a general area to help people improve, discuss, talk about things RP, learn things you haven't seen before. You know.
We're also going to go over the basics, right? Like, what is RP? This first episode will be more like, what is RP? Go through some of the, anagrams that you'll see getting into it. RDM, IRL versus
Hey,
OOC, that kind of stuff.
but here's a good question that most people will ask, right? And definitely not a scripted moment. What makes us what makes us good enough to talk to people about roleplay? Why do
I mean,
we
I'm
feel
a
like
professional.
why do we feel like roleplay should be discussed at the level that we're discussing it? And why does it need a podcast to allow people to become on board as new people? What makes us the governing body for introducing people to roleplay? So Ricky, what makes you feel like you're a good person?
That's the great thing about this is like I might not be the most qualified person, but I don't think anybody really is. I think we're just fresh perspectives on RP, and we're able to just kind of shed light on what we've seen and what we've experienced so far going.
I
into
think
this.
that's what it is. You've got to. You might be a little reluctant to get in and do it, but that's what you've got to do to get good at it, right? You've got to go in, you've got to put it out there, and through interactions and time, you'll learn what works and what doesn't work. What you'll like.
I can remember my first moments of roleplay being like this really daunting thing because I was thinking to myself, how am I going to
A lot of pressure.
how am I going to convince people that I'm, another person from what I am, essentially, And I remember thinking to myself, even just the very first interaction I had with another person felt really awkward. Like it wasn't like I was expecting.
And it is, right? Because you're playing a different person, so it is awkward.
I was
to your
expecting
normal
it to
day-to-day.
be like that, really, like when you think about TV shows where they make it seem like there's a TV show within a TV show and everything is overacted. Like, oh my god, I just stubbed my toe. Oh god, the pain.
Oh, you're talking about like infomercials, like they're mixing an egg and all of a sudden it ends up 2 states over.
Yeah. Like when they're doing like really crappy acting within TV shows, like it's almost like highlighting what bad acting looks like. So when I remember the first interaction I had with somebody, I was fucking terrified. But now that's for me like one of the most important things is interacting with people who are new. When you know that they're new, is like asking them as many questions so that you get past that uneasiness. You can hear it in people's voice, especially when they're new role players. You can hear it in their voice, that kind of fucking, like we all three of us have characters with robust backstories that have been along for not only just the backstory that you originally created when you created a character, but they now have this timeline together, right? That you can call on.
I'd also say that a lot of the nervousness that you think is coming through probably isn't. So when you're talking and you think you're a little bit nervous, that really doesn't read through as much as you think it does. As much as you're thinking inside your head, it might be. It's not. I think what you're talking about more is like the stuttering and like where to take it.
Yeah, I think I'm talking along the lines of not like nervousness about role playing in general, but like if you ask them questions that they wouldn't know the answer to, they don't have that role play experience to make some shit up and make it believable. Because it doesn't matter what the fuck you say, as long as you can make it believable, then that's believable, right? It's like the other day.
It's your thing, your character.
Let's use situations for examples that we've all experienced. The other day we were in the car driving up to fucking do the hunt for someone, and Ricky, types in /me, knocks over a cup of piss in the car. Now, at that point in time, as a role player, that's a setup, right? He's saying that his character accidentally knocked something over. If you don't, as a person, follow that up and be like, oh, the fuck just slipped, something just sloshed against my foot, then that gives Ricky a moment to be like, oh yeah, it was me, I accidentally kicked over a cup of piss in the background here. But that can lead to like really funny moments. You just need to
I think too, to let the audience know real quick, in GTA 5, a /me, so this is something where you could hit the T button and type out a /me would then prompt on the screen in the game for everyone who is around you in a close vicinity to be able to read that. So when he types that /me, that would then say, he had knocked over the cup of piss.
It's an action that you can't do in the game, essentially. It's a describing thing. It's like...
Yeah, so it'd be like if you were role-playing on a tabletop or something and, you could physically do something. In the game, there's no way to, act that out. per se.
There's no way
So-
to knock over a cup of piss in a car.
Right. So the slash me kind of lets everybody know that this action has happened, and
Yeah.
you get to, oh God, what's that smell? Or
Yeah.
why is my leg wet? There's different ways you can take it,
Yeah.
and
Or
then
just
Ricky would fall.
letting people know things around you as well, like letting someone know that you're
Yeah.
hungry. You could do a slash me really hungry, or slash me is freezing. Something like that. It just gives people a little thing around you to know that that's what you're thinking, or that's what your character is experiencing.
Because when you're looking at the character in GTA, right, they're all like skinny, buff people, and you don't see nervous pictures or ticks in their face or sweat or so that's a way to let people know that you're nervous or you're excited or
there's an idle
things of that
animation that the models use all the time, and it literally is just standing there every now and again. They'll
just look over this
look
way, that way.
left to right. So unless you do something, obviously there's emotes in the game as well, but not every emote fits every action.
Exactly.
And an emote is like an action that you can do slash dance, and your character will start dancing. Things of that nature. Slash smoke, and your character will pull out a cigarette and light it. And
slash ID, your character shows his ID badge. There's loads of emote, and I think with the expanded emote thing within GTA, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And every time I go in, every time I join a new city, there's maybe subscribe to a new script that has expanded emotes. There's like a freaking huge amount of them now, and you've got join up ones which really help roleplay. But there is, as I said, there's no emote for knocking over a cup of piss, so you need to. You need to kind of roll with people on that as well. But I feel like we jumped the gun there a bit as well, didn't we, Ricky? We
kind of jumped ahead a little bit, but it's organic. It happens. I kind of like where that conversation went. So,
and that's a good thing for new role players to know too, though. So you're not limited to just a character standing there with what you can physically do, like pull out a gun and aim it at somebody. That you don't have to. You're not limited to the actions of the game itself, right? You with the slash me ability, you have the ability to let people know what your character is feeling, doing, all kinds of different things. I mean, it's there's no limit to it.
It's the foundation of what FiveM was built on, because people who've played FiveM for a long time will remember that some servers had absolutely zero emotes, and you used slash me for everything.
Yeah. Now they have emotes where you actually can prompt the other player, and you do an animation together, like a headbutt, like and it'll come up on your screen. This person wants to headbutt you, and you're like, yeah, and then you headbutt him, and then you play it out like, oh, you motherfucker, and I mean, but to begin with, there was nothing like that. It was like, hey, I'm gonna headbutt you, come here, and then slash me tries to headbutt, and
there was a lot of typing out at the same time as role playing back then. You had to almost type out exactly what you were doing.
And there's nothing wrong with that. You can still do it that way. There's some not every server has the shared emotes or a ton of emotes. So,
well, like I do a lot of EMS role play, and like still I have to use like a ton of slash me commands the entire time I'm doing that to let people know what exactly I'm doing and let them in on the RP that's happening in front of them.
Yeah, because it's something that's never really been expanded on when it comes to EMS. There's Give CPR and Mechanic 4.
Yep, that's pretty much all you got.
Yeah. And one of them is a mechanic emote. It's not even really for EMS.
It works good for it, though.
The thing is, what's weird is that if you listen closely when someone's using a Mechanic 4, when the actions of the character is doing this, you can hear the like it's tightening something, and the only time that makes sense is when they're down at Johnny Mac's leg, like Johnny Mac, the character, has a prosthetic leg that has been made up by mechanic parts. But on any other person when they're doing Mechanic 4 and they're down on the ground, and you see them do this twisted motion, and you can hear the audio from the emote doing like a kind of so funny, man.
So Ricky, if you had to sum up just like what RP is, just like a general definition, how would you answer that?
Oh man, that's a tough one. For
No, just like
me,
a basic.
yeah. I was just trying to think of how to put it like in layman's terms. For me, role play is like just being able to like forget your life for a minute and immerse yourself in a new world, a new person, and basically just kind of play that out. Like as simple as I can probably put it. It's just creating a new world and diving into that world full-handedly.
Yeah, I agree. You're free to make any kind of actions that you want. Obviously, with any action, there can be repercussions, but yeah, you're not bound by physical limitations or things that you wouldn't do per se in the real world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you hit the nail right on the head there because roleplay is that for me completely. Like I am the polar opposite to Johnny Mac. The character Johnny Mac allows me to do things I would never ever do in my own real life. It's a character that lives vicariously through the club that he joined and through the brotherhood that he's formed with other people within there. He's an old man that's lived a life of kind of crime and um motorbikes and oil, blood, sweat, tears. And for me, I'm a 30-odd-year-old man who has an office job essentially. You know, where I get to work with young people. I follow the rules. I'm a law-abiding citizen who wouldn't say booty a ghost. And for me, it allows me to act out. You know, sometimes
Those intrusive thoughts. Everybody has those intrusive thoughts, right? And you get to just do those if you want to in the game. You get to
yeah,
act those out.
yeah, you get to do crime. It's role playing. It's taking on the life of someone else that may be completely different from you. Like
Yeah.
there's people out there who are male people who play female characters because they want to play. You know, they want to see what it's like to be or play a woman, which is that's their prerogative. Role play allows them to do that. So for me, it's
And
I don't ever in my real life want to be a criminal. But in Grand Theft Auto 5M, I get to be a criminal without any repercussions.
and it's not just about doing the bad things either. Like Ricky had said, he plays a medic, so he's able to, where he would never be allowed to work on a person in real life. I hope he's able to operate and save someone's life. And I've played a cop before, and that was good. Being a authority figure to the city, being a mentor to the
You've
city,
also
that kind
been
of
a
stuff.
judge as well.
Yeah, a judge as well. Yeah, having to take into consideration everybody, lawyers and everybody's input into what had happened without being there. So it's a lot of fun getting to play those different roles.
So I did have a question for you guys, because I had a very specific experience when I started RPing. I was wondering if you guys kind of had the same experience. Um, it actually helped me out a lot in my real life as well because I had a lot of confidence issues and I had problems like speaking to other people and doing
I'm
things
glad you
outside my
brought that
comfort
up,
zone.
Ricky, because this RP will definitely boost your confidence. It definitely helps you come up with something to say. Not necessarily just blurt something out either. It actually helps you come up with a good response to things.
Yeah.
In your real life when you're having conversations. But go ahead, continue, sir.
Yeah, but like just like introducing myself to new people, like
Yeah.
all kinds of different aspects of my life, like just doing that in RP has helped like encourage me to do that more in my real life. And like now like I'll go to the grocery store and I'll just like I'll compliment someone on like their t-shirt as I walk by, you know what I mean? Like I would have never done that before. Like I
He puts a
discovered
wig
RP.
on and his hair is all flowing. He's like, "I'm Ricky Stone." Yeah. No, that's
There
his character, and
there
then
was
he's
one
like
of
nice
there was
flowing
one
hair.
of those intrusive thoughts that I had when you said, "Yeah, I go to the grocery store and I'd be like point a gun in the cloud tower and be like, empty the
Oh,
drawer." You know? What's the code for
hey,
the safe in the
hey guys,
back?
it's me, Mickey Mouse. Everybody, put your hands up. That's what it is. I
Yeah,
did more of a goofy laugh
yeah, it
than
was.
that.
Yeah. No, I, I've always been like I would say I'm always like I've always been an outgoing person, so that I didn't have that same experience where it increased my level of comfortability around people. But what I would say is that I had a completely different experience to what you did because I was outgoing in roleplay, even though it was nervous doing something completely different for the first time. But I was outgoing, and what was happening is it was getting shut down because it was a very like cliquey, um, gang orientated server where nobody would speak to someone new because they were worried it was like a cop undercover or something like that. And I actually found the complete opposite because it was almost when I first started, I almost stopped immediately based on the interactions I had with people. Because I felt like nobody was talking, nobody nobody was getting into it. But if you persevere sometimes, especially that was I will say that was a one-off server. I've never had that kind of experience with any other server. It was just
And
for
you can
some
have
weird reason this server, the people, or maybe the people who I was interacting with were very close knit. They were very like not open
that's what I was
to
gonna say.
outsiders.
And depending on where you go, certain servers might be set up like that, or certain servers might be really open, but you'll find a group that's like that.
Yeah. So I had a completely different kind of first and like encounter with roleplay where it was like my perseverance and it paid off more than other people's willingness, and I think that would quite quite happily lead me on to the next question, Moose, for you guys, which would be along the lines of if there was one bit of advice that you could give to somebody when they're first starting out, because obviously mine would be perseverance. It might feel difficult, roll with it, whatnot. What would be the one piece of advice that you guys would give to people who were thinking about maybe starting role playing? And it doesn't have to be from the fashion of GTA, but maybe if we stick to GTA on this session.
Yeah. So, well, I'd like to answer Ricky's question first because I was more like Ricky, not as outgoing. I mean, yes, I would say I'm outgoing, but not as much as you are, Johnny. More like Ricky's style. But I would say, yeah, it definitely role playing's definitely helped me in real life to maybe approach more people or be more approachable or get to know people on a different level than what I would maybe be comfortable with before I started role playing. Absolutely. But Johnny, I think we're gonna get into that in another episode more. But I would say my biggest advice would to be, unless you're just gonna try to second life yourself, which is okay when you're starting out. I would say to really do some research into the character that you're trying to be. Put some time into a backstory. That way, when you're approached and people start asking you questions like, what did you move to the city for? What are you looking for? Are you family oriented? Are you money oriented? Are you trying to become a cop? Are you lawful? Are you okay with turning your back on something if you see something happen? Things of that nature. What's your weaknesses? Do you get really nervous when you see a gun? Or I think we're going to get into that into the second episode, but I feel like that would be a good place to start, especially if you're trying to play a more adventurous role like a cop or a medic or a criminal, something of that nature, where you wouldn't really have your own experiences to play off of, right? You would want to look into that and see how somebody that is really like that would react to certain situations.
I'm gonna kind of off that a little bit. Um, I think fleshing out like your character beforehand is a really great idea. That way you have an idea of what direction you want to go, how you want to react to things, what kind of things you want to get into. And it's so much more secure having that character fleshed out and having an idea of what you are and what you're doing before you just dive in.
I
Yeah,
I
I
will
would
say, to add
say
on to that, the biggest thing that I could say for advice for RP, if you're trying to honestly RP and have fun, the biggest piece of advice I could give you is never say no. Go with it.
I was literally just about to say that because I was going to go off the back of you along the lines of the backstory, And I always have the thought of being like when somebody said, "Oh, what's Johnny Mac's backstory?" And I was like, "Hey, I'll send you the Google Drive document." He was like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, there's multiple pages, you know."
That's more for your own thing, so you know how to act and answer things, right? But some people are interested
No,
in,
it was
in
more.
stuff
It
like
was
that
more
reading.
actually. It was more something like along the lines of that was drawn out over years because obviously
Oh yeah,
Johnny Mac's
your story
whose
progressed.
story is the beginning of AOD as a separate chapter from the original Liberty City chapter.
Yeah,
So
that's not.
what?
That's just a progression to your story, not where you necessarily came from.
Yeah, but there was a part of that backstory is where Johnny Mac was before that, and then the reason why he ended up in that chapter. So it's like it's expanded over time. But
Yeah,
yeah, I think, as you say never say no, but I say when you're playing when you're role playing, you you have to be a yes man. That, in my opinion, is like what you said. The best advice that you can give is see where it's going to take you. Don't say no
yeah,
to
because otherwise,
situations.
you're standing there doing nothing, right?
Yeah, circle jerking.
Right. So if
I would
somebody's like,
say,
"Hey, let's, what, put your hands up," or "Hey, let's go try to steal some beer from the 7-Eleven," or "Hey, you want to go on a ride along with the cop?" Like, you never know what's gonna happen, right? You never know where you're gonna end up.
Yeah, exactly. You just don't know what's going to happen. That's one of the reasons why, like, in times in the past where it's been like when people have been really against being taken hostage. I'm like, why? What were you doing? You were standing around. This person is offering you a situation that could be fun for you just to be involved in their thing. Go do it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying
Yeah.
offer yourself up to be a hostage. Like start walking down the street with your hands up. Like
With your hands
with,
up.
with a big sign, like slash me can be taken as hostage. Please take me as hostage. But what I'm saying is like there's times where it rubbed me up the wrong way when I would hear you'd go up to somebody, you'd put your hands up and they'd be like, "Nah, man, nah, you can't do me like that." And I'm like, dude, like what were you doing? Like what were you
I
doing
think
that
the
was
big thing
so much
too.
better than being involved in this situation, you know?
I think the big thing too that makes us say this, right, is that we've been playing for so long that sooner or later you're going to have a plan or an idea, a storyline per se that you want to play out, right? You're gonna have a plan and you're gonna implement it in the city. You don't have, these are other people behind the screens playing their characters, so you do not have the ability to make them do exactly what you want to play that story out, right? So that kind of comes from that point of view as well, right? Because you're going to be in that position
Yeah.
where you're going to have a plan,
Role play
and
is reactive, not active.
right, you're going to have that plan one day, and you're going to be the one, hopefully, that interacts with other people that are wanting to role play, that are wanting to say yes, that are wanting to go along with the story and see what happens. Now it's not going to end the way you think it is. It's not going to go the way you think it is, right? It never does. But it's going to be a fun process, and that's what we're here for, right? The funny stories that you get to
Popcorn.
tell afterwards. That we have hundreds of them.
Popcorn, popcorn, popcorn.
We'll get into some of those as the the podcast progresses.
Yeah, as I said in the middle there, like roleplay is reactive. You can't. As Moose says, you can't dictate unless you're doing scripted roleplay, which is boring as fuck because everybody knows what's going to happen. You can't make other people do the things that you want them to do. So you have to have a general idea of how it's going to go, and then it's almost like you just need to start. Right? That's it. You just need to start, and then everything after that is reactive. It's like, oh, that never went to the plan of what I originally imagined it. Fuck it, we'll roll with it. What's next? Right,
Plan
okay.
B.
Yeah.
By the end, you're on plan double Z.
By the end, you're all laying on the ground going, fucking good night. You're in jail for the next 9 months, and you're going, hey guys, I'm just gonna go to sleep here because you know that you're gonna be in prison for the next 45 minutes. That's Plan Z, and but the thing is, a lot of those like most memorable things are ideas that started off as just like, let's go fucking do this, and then the ball roll, and it was like a snowball effect. By the time it gets to the bottom of the hill, it's fucking huge. It was It was a massive night. It was a fun night,
The-
but it all started from one stupid idea that somebody had that you said, "Yeah, sure, man, let's go."
And the more people you get involved, the more people they say yes, the more epic the story becomes, the more
Oh my
fun
god!
everybody's having. Hopefully. I mean,
Oh.
not everything that, and that's something that happens as well, right? Not everything you create is going to be fun for everybody. You might think like, oh, the cops are going to have a great time with this, or the Crims aren't going to mind that they got caught this way, you know, but
I'm sure
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll get into some examples of times where like there's a few examples that we both know. You know, I don't think Ricky. Ricky. I don't think that you were there for that whole scene where it was like the which I, you know,
generally everyone's going to have
Disclaimer.
fun.
disclaimer. You know, generally
Generally,
you're hoping.
everybody's there to RP. They're wanting
You
to
hope that
be
everyone's gonna
involved
have
in
fun.
some kind of story. They generally everybody's going to be have fun. There's going to be chances where there's going to be sometimes where you know, people are just not into your story, right? And that's okay. It's not for them.
Don't
And that's
forget.
what's cool about it. You can, if it's not for you, you can turn around and go do something else. Go interact with different people, things of that nature. But typically, everybody's there to RP. You know, have fun and be involved in something.
It's kind of a great transition into my next thought I had. Is reminding yourself that you're not the main character of this story. Like, no one really is. And I think that's a great thing that a lot of people should remember while they're RPing. Is like, we're not the main characters, but like, we can still go out there and make it fun for everybody. We can have a good time, enjoy our own stories, but also be aware that there's other stories going on around us at the same time. And like, there's probably half a dozen people I just don't know in City right now. I've never met them, but they've probably got really great RP behind them. And someday, like, I hope to like come into a situation where like I could say yes to something that they're doing, or I can join in on some type of level there.
Yeah, that's
But
another thing about being, like Johnny said, a yes man, right? You get to learn everybody else's kind of how they operate and shit like that.
I think
So if
I
their
have.
name comes up, you can be like, yeah, I had this experience with them.
I
you
think
know?
I think I have a little bit of a differing opinion from what Ricky does there. You are the main character in your own story, but you need to remember that everyone else is a fucking main character. Do you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
that's
a better way of
the
putting it.
you're your own main character because it's your role play, it's your game. But everyone else in the city, you need to take it away from how like normal multiplayer or single player games are set up where you're the main protagonist. There's 50 main protagonists in the city.
Right. I think
And-
what Ricky was getting more into was that you're not the main character, i.e., when other people come to interact with you, you're not the main character. They're the main character, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like you're in their story now. Yes, you're your own main character, sure, for your story.
I think
But when you're interacting with them, you're not necessarily the main character. You might be a part of a story, which is great.
Yeah.
You might be a big part of a story.
Yeah.
But
I think both opinions have merits along the lines of I think that is exactly what Ricky was meaning, that there is no main character because everyone's a fucking main character. Do you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
you are
yeah.
not the main character of ABC's game. You know, they are, and that makes it's really difficult when you first get in to take that out of your mindset. You're not the protagonist. You're not the antagonist. You are a sum of parts that make things greater. You know what I mean? Like you are a cog in the wheel that makes it a great city to be in.
And
That's what I was about
that
to say.
goes with you know, other things like D&D as well. You know what I mean? You're a group. You're not the main person in that group, unless you're
And-
the paladin tank, right?
What's funny about that, and Moose will know this, at like session 0, it's one of the things where I always bring up. If you start giving off main character energy when you're in a big group, like I'm gonna have to rein that in as the DM, say the forever DM, in my opinion. If you start portraying main character energy, somebody has to reel that in and say, "Hey, you're in a group of 5 people. Like this isn't just your story. You know, like it's imagine the main character is the group." And I suppose, in a sense, the way I imagine AOD in my mind, and just to do one of Moose fun facts here, like he's been explaining things as we go on, like slash me. But one of Moose's fun facts here: AOD is Angels of Death. It's the motorcycle club that we all joined in the city. And one of the reasons why we decided we want to do something like this was because of the brotherhood that we have formed over years, and how
Yeah, years.
and how one thing like the role play of a city has expanded us from being just characters within a city to also being real life friends. You know, to having the relationship that we do, where when we're in a time in between servers, we go and play different games together. You know, we've all done like uh
And that RP
yeah,
can lead to that if you want it to. It doesn't have to, right?
no,
But I mean, every group is going to have, a way they communicate outside of the city, whether that's Discord or emails or whatever, and you'll get to meet all kinds of fun people. Some you wish you hadn't
another
met.
Moose's
But
fun fact here, and I'll put it off. Moose's fun fact. Whenever we refer to in the city, what we mean is
Oh.
in the game within a server. So because
Yeah,
a
so
lot of the
I see.
things that you say in character, you can't say. So like if we were referring to a real life person in the game, it would be in head, because it means, you know, in your own head. And city means in city, because you wouldn't say I'm going on to play on the server. It wouldn't make sense in a role play capacity. But what you could say is I'm going to fly into the city, which means I'm going to log on to the server. That's it. It's just it's a different of language, you know. And I'm sure we'll get into that and like headaches and stuff like that. And
I think we should. I think that's a good thing to do. I mean, this is the first episode, like what
yeah,
role
okay.
play is. I mean,
So let's
I
throw
think
out
that's
a
a good
couple
thing to
of
get into.
a couple of things each. So I said in city, and the other one I said was headaches. Headaches when you're in the city means that your game is stuttering. It could be lagging.
Lagging, yeah.
It could be your computer. You know, you could be ready for a blue screen of death, and you could say something to people to let them know around you.
You're having internet problems. You're having computer problems.
Yeah, I'm having computer internet problems. I'm having a headache. Everyone knows what that means.
The computer, in sense, a lot of people refer to it in roleplay NRP as your brain. So when you're having headaches, they know, there's an issue with your computer.
I'm blind.
And like your inputs and stuff, those would be your muscles. So like, let's just say for example, like I accidentally punched someone, I'll be like, "Hey, I'm sorry, my muscles twitched there. Like that was my bad, you know."
Wrong muscle.
Yeah. Just things that keep you immersed without like breaking that RP barrier, and that's a big thing for me.
Yeah, you don't want to just go around and be like, "Oh, I accidentally clicked my mouse." When you're standing with a group of people, in a club or a bar or something, you don't want to be like, "Oh, whoops, I accidentally hit the enter key." Like, what are you talking about? Right?
You will get the
makes
piss
no
ripped out of you for that.
It makes no sense.
There is times where people will absolutely rip into you for a slip up, you know, and
Yeah.
9 times
And
out of
we've
10,
all been there.
yeah,
We've all had-
it's all, 9 times out of 10 it's jest, and the people that you know best. Like I know in AOD that if somebody says something that's kind of, you know, out of city type of things, you what was that you said? You know what? You like try and get
Yeah,
them
what
in
did-
review.
where's your mouse? You got what? You got a mouse in your hand?
Yeah, yeah.
I'll
So,
straight
yeah,
up,
Keep it in character as much as possible.
yeah,
As best you can.
yeah. When someone like really gets like OOC, like I'll be like, I have no idea what you're talking about right now. Like I'll just be like, you're speaking alien to me right now, dog. Like you gotta dumb this down for me or something.
You're speaking a different language, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. OOC, and you'll some servers and some places you'll hear people say, "Oh, OOC," and you're just not something you want to bring up in role play, and essentially that stands for out of character. Is things that happen or that you know about that your character does not know about. So essentially, when you're role playing, the only things that you're wanting your character to react on, or play on, is things that your character knows from gameplay, from you being in the city on the server. So OOC basically is just anything that your character would know,
I
for
think
his
a
own
good-
knowledge.
I think
Seeing a Twitch episode.
Oh, yeah, I think a
Go
good
ahead,
tail
John.
end onto that though, what you said about knowing information you shouldn't know. Meta. You're gonna
Okay,
hear.
go
You're
ahead.
gonna hear meta.
Moose's
being
fun
used.
fact. What's meta, Johnny?
Meta is information that you would have learned outside what your character would have known. It's exactly what Moose was talking about. but it's meta information. And the reason why they call it meta information is, say you're in a city and you're playing in that city, but you want to support a fellow streamer. So you jump, when you're not in the city, you jump on their stream and you watch it. But then you hear on their stream them talking something about AOD. Then I go into the city and I, as Johnny Mac, start spreading that information. Hey, I heard that such and such was talking about us. That is meta information. That's information that Johnny Mac wouldn't known. It is meta. It is meta. And we will pull each other up on that, i.e., we won't discuss things in Discord without saying find out an RP. You know what I mean? Like, because it's meta information. Like, even one of the meetings that we have for the club are done in character. They're done in the city, because knowing that information without being in the city is meta. So that's meta information.
Meta's a really big deal as well. That can get you booted from a city pretty quickly if you're
Yeah.
really bad about it.
It's that's usually at the minimum a very warnable offense, but yeah, usually a boot. So that's something you want to be aware of, and it's hard beginning out role playing. It was extremely hard for me. I remember when I first started, it was like, oh, you're just watching a Twitch stream and you hear somebody, like Johnny said, say something that's relevant to you, whether it helps you out or doesn't help you out, or gives you insight on somebody else's dealings, some other group's dealings, and it's hard not to go in and be like, hey, this is going to affect us. We need to do something about this. We need to be ready for this. But that's also what makes RP so fun, is like that you don't want to ruin those reactions that you could have, genuine reactions that you could have. Like, imagine being shocked in a movie that you saw and you were like, oh my God, I didn't see that coming. You want those reactions in roleplay. You don't want to have those ruined, and nobody wants to have those ruined by meta information. Now, if you learn about it in the city and you plan to do something, that's great, but you want that shock. You want that, like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. That was so cool. Or, oh, that fucks us, whatever. You don't want to ruin those efforts.
You also don't want to do the overemphasized, like, learning of new information that you already knew. When somebody comes up to you, that way you're like, oh my God, this is the first time I'm ever hearing about this.
You don't say.
What the hell? No, they didn't say that about me, did they? Yeah, you watched the whole stream the night before. So you need to try and be as casual, I would say, about those things where you may have an inkling of what is going on, but you also want it to be fresh for the people that you're interacting with. So having some meta information, and it really boils down to the basics of separating in-character knowledge from out-of-character knowledge.
Which is
they
a
are
lot harder than it sounds.
They are two separate things.
Especially when you're playing multiple characters.
Hell yeah.
It is wild to hear about yourself on another character, about another character that you play, and not try, not
react
influence that. Yeah, not influence that situation, right? Because you've got to like, if I'm on my cop and it's came up plenty of times where it's like, oh, AOD's at it again, you know what I mean? And I can't help my friends. As a cop, I've got to play my cop character. I got to do what my cop would do. What would my cop do? He's going to arrest him. He's going to shoot at him. He's going to...
Yeah, your cop is going to do the exact things that your cop has done many a times, where it's like, sometimes almost like, because you know it's Johnny Mac, you're going to fucking give them a harsher time. It's like, because I know the asshole behind the fucking character, I'm gonna go out my way, like, oh,
that's what Johnny Mac would do.
You're hitting the flashlight off your hand. Oh, it's Johnny Mac, is it? It looks like a long jail time. You do those things, but also at the same time, you have to play the character. So you can't. So, like, if Moose was on his cop character and he pulled over Johnny Mac and I had a warrant out for my arrest, and he's like, I need to take you back to cell, and I can't be in the back going, hey, Moose, come on, man, let me away with this, because that isn't Moose. You know what I mean? That character who's taken me isn't Moose. It may be the same person behind the screen, but it's not the same person
and it's tough when you're starting out. It is
Yeah.
very tough to
It's tough
differentiate.
when you've got friends as well who are cops, scumbags.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's always going to be something that you have to be conscious of. Not only acting off information, and those are big things, acting off information that only your character would know, and not doing things that your other character wouldn't necessarily do. That's a huge one. Cop character, talking to criminals that are your friends on other characters, you just got to not do it.
You have to
You know?
separate it. You have to separate it. Because if you
Yeah,
don't,
you have
then
to.
what's the point in that character?
You're just basically playing the same character with different permissions. It's not going to lead you anywhere fun.
Do we have
Yeah,
any
that's
other
a tough one.
do you have any other examples, Ricky, of in character things that we would say that don't make sense in the real world but make sense in City? Spider.
Oh, man.
Spider.
Yeah, spider's a big one.
Fun.
So spidering is like every once in a while you get like a visual glitch in other people's eyes. Where, like, your characters-
Eyes. We got another one.
We got another.
Yep.
That's a twofer.
Yep. So eyes references to your perspective, like your monitor, what you're seeing.
On my
like,
eyes.
visual glitch.
Right.
Is essentially like your character will be like sliding across the ground rather than walking, stuff like that. They'll be teleporting here and there, and weirdly enough, to fix that, all you got to do is jump.
Most of the times that'll fix.
It's a desync issue that happens in 5M because there may be so many people there that it can't keep up to date with all the syncing of all the characters. But the one thing that you need to say, as Ricky was explaining, sorry Ricky, go for it. It was I wanted to add in the desync part.
It's like, oh yeah, you got a spider on your foot. Can you go ahead and jump for us? Like, and that's a perfect way to say like, yeah, man, your character's doing some weird
glitching
shit.
out.
Go ahead and fix that real quick.
I remember the first time someone ever said that to me, and I hadn't a fucking clue what it meant. And I was like, I'm looking. I went into first person view as well, and I'm looking down at my foot, going, "No, I don't." And they're like, "Yeah, you have a spider." And I'm like, "Where?" And I think the person was just kind of like, they just went /me thinks you need to jump. I was like, okay. But
Yeah, no, that stuff's hilarious.
Oh, so so that's another thing to kind of go into with the Slash. Well, first I wanted to say eyes is your monitor. When you mention eyes,
yeah, Ricky
that's
said
what you're
that.
saying.
It's
That's
your
what you're saying.
perspective. It's what
I didn't
you
hear.
can see.
Okay, I'm sorry. But I wanted to go into that a little bit more with the /me. So, if you do a /me and you do an action like knocking over the cup we had talked about earlier, that's going to be something that other people can notice and pay attention to. But what Johnny had just said there, a lot of times people will react to a /me is thinking about, and people react to that, which is, I don't think personally, and maybe you guys disagree, should be done. I don't think if you're having a thought,
No, yeah,
you're
it should
putting
be.
it out there like you have a concern, maybe look on your face, or something like that. I would think it'd be okay where somebody would be like, what are you thinking over there?
Yeah.
Maybe, but not
It's a
necessarily
prompt
like,
thing.
yeah, like /me's thinking about, an itch on my leg. You can't be like, hey, is your leg itch? Hey, it doesn't really, you can't read minds.
No.
It breaks the immersion a little bit. Like,
No. Yeah, so like even recently there has been that where we were at the meeting and I'm saying /me, my neck is freezing. And rather than somebody turning around and saying, "Hey, is your neck cold?" because that would be almost exactly replying to the /me. People were saying,
They're hearing your thoughts.
yeah, people were actually saying, "Hey, Johnny, you look cold." And then that would give you a moment in time to say, "Oh yeah, I'm pretty cold right now," But it's not.
Yeah.
It's not reacting to the thoughts, and I suppose it's about learning how to reply to something like that. If somebody says, "I'm really hungry," it's /me as hungry. You're not going to know that they're hungry, but it might be a good opportunity for you to say, "Hey, does anyone want to go and get food?"
Or is your stomach rumbling? Like,
Yeah.
something that you would be able to sense, right? Like in the aspect of you were cold, like maybe like you were shivering. That would be something visual clue that you could react on. But if you're sitting there talking to a cop and giving him your story about why you had to run this red light, and he's like slash me thinking this is all bullshit, you're you know, you don't really get a clue that he's not believing you quite yet. But you know,
Yeah,
it's
and
something.
you can't react to that either. Like, hey, wait a minute, this isn't bullshit. It's gonna be like, oh wait, so you're fucking Darren Brown as well now?
You're
Fucking
Professor Xavier over here reading
mind freak, you know? Like,
Yeah, the
so
last city we were in actually like put out messages about that, like saying like don't use /me for thoughts, just because it was creating so much like conflict in RP of
Well,
like people.
I think that's just failure to spread the word. I
Yeah.
think they should have just, instead of banning it, because it's great to use. Like
It can be
that's
hilarious.
yeah, like that's limiting the RP, right? Like I think it's great to be able to use. I think just people need to be more self-aware, more cautious of how to respond to
yeah,
those
it's not someone putting it out there for you to pick it up and react to the point that they're making it. It's almost like a buffer to roleplay. You
Yeah.
don't have the means to express your thoughts, but what you can do is you can say, "Is thinking about robbing a bank." Oh, and you could have your character, you know, be like this and just be like, "Is thinking about robbing banks," and or is thinking about being on the beach with a margarita.
Oh, that's another thing. Thinking. In city, people will say that quite a bit. Like I'm thinking about something, or I'm going to think deeply, or you know, they just talk about being in their thoughts, and that's basically saying you're gonna be AFK. Like you're gonna be doing something else. You're not gonna be fully there.
That's
Yeah.
different for
It's
people
letting.
though as well. People do use that, but me personally, I say I'm going to make a phone call, and I'll take myself
Yeah.
away from there, and I'll do the /e phone call where it looks like I'm on the it looks like I'm on the phone. People can
Mhm.
do, you know, the
So what I do is I always say, "Hey, I got to use I got to go to the bathroom," and I run over to a bush.
Yeah.
Or if we're in a building
Yeah.
where there's a bathroom, I'll run into the bathroom.
It's just dependent on how people want to do it. But you could say, I think what Ricky's saying here is like, you could say, "Oh, sorry, I was thinking," you know, like I was in my head thinking, you know, like along those
Yeah.
lines. And what that
In my head
essentially
is
essentially saying I was AFK. I was away from the
in
keyboard.
my head was AFK. Yeah,
Yeah.
you'll hear that.
Sorry,
quite
I was
often.
in my head thinking, you know, like which is perfectly acceptable because you don't want to come back and go, "Oh, hey, oh my bad, man, I was away from my keyboard there." Because yeah, again,
Yep,
that's
exactly.
another immersion breaking thing, right? Is like nobody wants to hear you say, "Oh man, I was away from my computer." But then it
You
also
know,
doesn't make sense to say this is where it gets confusing, and you have to kind of break it down because it doesn't make sense to say, you know how Moose was saying when someone says the brain, they're in referencing the computer. It doesn't make sense to say I was away from my brain. That doesn't make sense in roleplay. So in my head makes sense because it's, you know, you know, like how someone would say, "Hey, you listening to me?" You're like, "Oh, I'm in my own thoughts, man. Sorry." You know, I was daydreaming. I mean, you could even say that. That's perfectly acceptable as well. "Oh, my bad, I was daydreaming there." All of them are fine. But what you can't say is, "I was away from my brain," or "I was away from my eyes." It doesn't make any sense, you know?
You just have to, I mean, use your common sense there when it's coming to those things. All of them are acceptable things to say. You just need to think about how you're going to put it together to make sense in the city for other people.
Going to take a piss in your head, taking a phone call.
Yeah. I think another one now that you bring that up when you have to go FK, I think another one is logging off the city.
Taking a flight?
So a lot of people say taking a flight, but you know, you can literally just like, I'm going to bed, and literally go to your house and go to bed.
Going to
I mean,
take
in
a
the
nap.
game, your house.
Yeah, I'm going to
Take a
take a
nap.
nap.
Yeah.
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 I'll
yeah,
see
that's
you
what I
guys.
kinda
I'll see you
transitioned to.
guys tomorrow, you know?
Yeah. You'll hear a lot of different things like that, but taking a flight is one of those that means, you know, you're logging off the server. And sometimes people will even say, I mean, depending on your character, if they'll do that or not, but they'll say, "Hey, I'm gonna go home and play some Overwatch." You know, and you're going home and getting on another game.
hand, nudge, nudge.
Right.
Yeah,
Anybody want to join us?
I'm gonna go home and, you know, play the computer and play some Overwatch. Hand, nudge, nudge. Want to come
I
and
would
join?
say that I would say that usually wouldn't fall onto anybody's character, but it might. Who knows? Maybe you're playing some nerd.
It has done. It has done, and I mean,
It
it's
has,
it's
yeah.
perfectly acceptable to do it. You know. Trying to think if there's anything else within the saying.
As far as oh, so I know a lot of servers don't do this, but I have been in some that have, where they've done announcements in the world,
I hate
where you
that.
can see where you can see up in the top left. Typically those are just ignored. You don't mention those at all. It's
Yeah, it's a bit
it'd be really
awkward.
weird.
It's a bit awkward
Yeah.
when people do it, you know, because like how else? I remember there was one city where we could go and check the newspaper stands. You could actually check the
Oh, yeah.
newspaper stands for notifications, and that was a really good way of doing it because
That brought it into the city.
I remember them being like, a new newspaper is released, and you could go and check what the announcement was, and because it was like a newspaper, it made sense then to, oh, there's going to be an event on tonight. That makes perfect sense. But the ones that you're
Right.
talking about where it's like announcement, you know,
Red.
yeah, it doesn't make any sense to be like, hey, did you guys just see the new announcement? You know,
It's in the
I
top
know-
left corner of my screen.
I know that some servers nowadays have been implementing that it shows up on the phone, which makes sense as well. You know,
Oh,
some
yeah.
people have been saying like, "Oh, did you see the new alert that came through, the government alert?" That makes perfect
Yeah.
sense as well. But yeah, reading out announcements that are up in the top left as they happen are a bit bullshit. I also
Oh.
think it's I think I know exactly which one you're gonna say.
Emails?
Tsunami? No, different.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay.
So I'll go for tsunami or storm.
Yeah.
Tsunami or storm essentially refers to the next wipe of the server, not wipe as in everything gets deleted. Fuck's sake,
gotcha.
Miss.
Oh my god! Did you
There was
see
a
that?
fucking tsunami there.
Woo!
So it doesn't mean like along the lines of a wipe. What it means is like the next server restart. So to keep things
Yeah.
fresh, obviously the cache gets built up on these server things. So they do a restart to try and obviously keep things fresh. And
Usually like once or twice a day, a server.
yeah,
will
sometimes
do that,
4
and there'll be
times
a-
a day. You know, like
There'll be an
it's-
announcement that's like, server restart in 10 minutes, and people will say in the city, "Oh, the storm's coming. We better
Yeah.
hunker down."
Yeah, and some cities have it where there's actual, you can tell that it's happening because the city, like with 5 minutes left to go, all the power goes out. With 2 minutes left to go, alarms start.
You'll hear
happening.
sirens. Yeah.
So you know
Some
that,
of them actually change the weather even and make
Yeah.
it physically look like a storm.
So yeah, it's actually a really good thing. But yeah, that's what tsunami. You were gonna say emails.
Yeah. So, and this is a kind of a touchy one, really. But emails usually refer to Discord, an outside source where you would send information that is to be used in character. I know that's kind of counterintuitive of what we were saying earlier, but this would be like, you get a warrant from a judge per se. Some servers now, they have forms in the city that you can physically see. A lot don't, however, and you can email that form, i.e., send a message to the person that plays whatever character you're trying to get the information from. So if you need a form filled out by a city councilman that says you own this business, you'll need to email them, Discord message them the form, get that back, and you'll have that. And if a cop or another business owner, a supplier needs to see that physical copy, you'll then have to email, Discord message them that document.
Yeah, and I think that also goes for people saying Discordia. I don't know why
I
it
don't
was
know
ever.
why.
I don't know why it was ever decided that when people were referring to Discord that they would say Discordia, because it's just it's another name for Discord. It's just
Yeah.
it's the exact same
So-
thing as saying I sent you a message on Discord or check your Discord. They will say check your Discordia, which is
I think what they were trying to do was bring it into character as a different name, which doesn't need to be. You don't say emailia.
No.
Check your emailia. Check your text messages.
check your
like, it's just-
genitalia.
It's just Discord. I I have no idea.
I
why.
don't know why they ever did it as well, but it's something that's stuck as well. So like you get some people.
You'll hear it sometimes.
Yeah.
I want everyone listening to just take a stand and tell people to stop fucking doing it.
Just say
Discord.
emails. Yeah, or emails. Emails are fine.
Yeah, I prefer emails. I personally, I think that's a good stopping point for today, though. I mean, if you guys agree, unless you guys had any other last minute topics to bring up, I think we kind of discussed a good bit there.
There's probably going to be things that we do in say in City that will come out, and we'll rely on Moose or everyone else picking it up and explaining it, in detail. Like how you said eyes, like me and Moose picked that up immediately. Like it doesn't make any sense to people who don't know what "in my eyes" mean. And that used to be, I think, in the earlier days of 5M, "in my eyes" was used a lot more because of the sync issues.
Yeah. It used to be really bad.
It used to be really bad to the point where you could literally ram somebody off the street in a car, and next minute you would see something flying because the sync happened as you hit them, and you would see them ending up on the other side, and you'd go over and you'd be like, my bad, that I didn't see you in my eyes. And
or you would see them fly over to an area and you'd run over there and they wouldn't be there. They'd be back where you first hit them.
Yeah. There was a lot of sync issues, but nowadays it seems to be a lot better. That you only have those odd times where you can get away with saying, "Oh, in my eyes, that never happened," or whatnot. But,
I think we did pretty good there, covering just the basics of what RP is. I mean this would be really informative for anybody that's starting out new, specifically to 5M roleplay, that they have a lot of information there to go off of and would know a lot of things that they wouldn't need explained in the game. And it's hard to do sometimes. Explain what "in my eyes" means in character. Like how do you do that? It's a little rough.
By the way, if anybody does have any questions while they're watching this, feel free to leave a comment and we'll go through those and try and answer as many as we can in the next episode. Try and cover things we didn't necessarily hit today, and make sure we're getting the information that you guys really want out there for everybody.
Yeah, feel free to disagree or add examples as well to things that we've went over, because it's a huge learning experience, and continue to learn all the time, and use
it changes all the time as well.
Yeah.
I mean, like 5M is constantly people updating scripts and changing things, so it's something that's constantly evolving. Do you guys think it's crazy that GTA is still releasing, Rockstar's still releasing patches for GTA? Whenever there's a new patch for GTA, there is a ton of scripts that get updated and new scripts get created because new things have been added in. So 5M is constantly changing as well.
By the way, did you guys see that Rockstar recently acquired CFX?
Yeah, and then immediately it went down, and it's been down for 2 days now.
You can still
you have the direct connect, right?
Yeah.
But I think that's a positive thing for. I'm sure we could probably talk it is, but what I think is it's a positive thing for Grand Theft Auto 6. Yeah. I think that means that they're seriously looking about roleplay native within GTA 6 on release, which I would be.
Hopefully they make it easier to code and work on.
That could be like a double-edged sword, because they could make it also that any scripts that get put into GTA 6 have to go through Rockstar, which means then a whole fucking so it can go both ways. Hopefully it's a positive thing, and hopefully it is Rockstar saying this shit sells, so let's make sure.
Typically when you have third-party mods, there's going to be third-party mods, and hopefully they let those flow better now that they have 5M.
Hopefully. Here's hoping.
Hopefully. I do remember very clearly the launch of GTA 5 and how messy that was.
All right, so let's end it here. Say goodbye to everybody listening. We really appreciate it. Hopefully you guys gained some information.
If not, you got to look at our faces for an hour, so lucky you.
I apologize.
I don't. I'm very handsome.
Ricky is. We call him Pretty Ricky.
Right, Ricky.
Damn straight.
He's the only one in
Actually,
the
that's the
logo
first
that
time ever.
actually. He's the only one in the logo that looks good.
Oh yeah, we should mention. So the logo's being worked on by a buddy of mine. He's getting there.
Yeah, he done one of
work in
them good,
progress.
and the other two ones he obviously was just like, fuck it.
That's not true. He's doing good. Hopefully next episode we'll have some I'm depending on when we record it, but soon we'll have some color in it. He's good. I have no doubt we'll have an amazing logo.
I hope that we have a jingle as well.
Oh yeah. We should do we need somebody to give us a little tune that we can sing to.
Yeah. Or we could just do the AOD song.
That's horrible.
God.
Not
No.
do that.
No. All right. Well, that's the end of it.
Here goes episode 1.
Episode 1.
Done.
Done.
We'll see you guys again episode 2.